evening, everyone. Welcome to the December 7th meeting of the Town Board. Please join me while we pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have a couple of workshop items, but before we do that, we need a motion to accept the minutes.
Make a motion?
And a second.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then we also have a public hearing as the first item on the agenda, and that's to amend the zoning code, Chapter 93, Stormwater. And we have Tad in the audience, and if she would like to update us in any way, that would be great.
The amendment would be to Chapter 93, which is not in the zoning, but is a separate standalone chapter. The town is an MS4 community, and we're updating our requirements based on DEC's new permits that have been adopted since we did our local law. Basically, we're adding some definitions. We're including green infrastructure. There's a required inspection by the town engineer or the stormwater management officer for each site. There is, in our initial law, local law, we appointed the town engineer as the stormwater management officer, and DEC is not amenable to that, so we're changing it to the zoning administrator. And hopefully we're adding some permit timeframes and some closeout requirements.
Okay, and you and Warren and Emily kind of worked on this with Pete? Is that the way it all?
I have very little to do with
Oh,
it.
okay. But
Todd and Pete.
Todd and Pete pretty much worked together?
They did the
and-
bulk of the work. I have to sign off on it. We did get some comments from the planning board. Tad has a couple of tweaks to make to the law, so after we close the public hearing, we anticipate we'll make a few changes to the law, and then we should be in a position to enact it very shortly.
Tad, could you just briefly describe what an MS4 community is?
It's a community of a certain density of population that has the potential to impact water quality, primarily surface water quality, with development. And it's to control runoff and erosion and sediment, moving off sites, construction sites of an acre or more, and also the smaller sites.
So does that mean that they have to, that if someone were to be working that in areas that would disturb the stormwater, they have to get a special permit from you, or?
They require either a SWIP, a stormwater pollution prevention control plan, stormwater management plan, which is disturbing a significant amount of acreage, mostly through commercial development, or an erosion sediment control permit for an individual who's disturbing an acre or more.
And that's a designation by the state is that how we obtain that designation of MS4? Is that done by the state?
It's done through the census and a population density. And that's one of the changes that DEC made in their permit. We had already adopted it townwide, but DEC more recently adopted it, saying that if there is a portion of your community that meets those requirements, then the whole community is required to be considered an MS4.
Okay.
Great.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
And so what we have is a public hearing on this change to our law. And Madam Clerk, if you would go ahead and read the notice of the public hearing that was published in the paper.
Please take notice that the Town Board of the Town of Hyde Park shall conduct a public hearing on the proposed adoption of a local law amending Chapter 93 of the Town of Hyde Park Code on December 7th, 2015, 7:05 p.m. at the Town of Hyde Park Town Hall located at 4383 Albany Post Road, Hyde Park, New York. The purpose of the local law is to amend Chapter 93 of the Town of Hyde Park Code to ensure that it meets new federal and state guidelines for stormwater control and the MS4 requirements. Any person desiring to comment on said local law shall be given an opportunity to do so at the public hearing. A copy of the proposed local law is on file at the town clerk's office during normal business hours and is posted on the town's official website. By order of the Town Board of the Town of Hyde Park, dated November 10th, 2015, Hyde Park, New York, Donna McGrogan, Town Clerk.
Thank you very much. And can I have a motion to open the public hearing
Motion?
to comments? And all in favor?
Aye.
So is there anyone out there? Maybe our highway super wants to comment on it.
Doesn't want anything to do with that.
Okay.
Right, Thad?
So you said that you had some comments from the planning board, and they'll be put in the record, is that right? Or-
Right.
Yeah.
We'll, if we, I assume we'll close the public hearing. I'll go over those comments in a workshop session with Tad and Pete.
Okay.
And we'll put it into final order. We don't have to republish because the changes are going to be very minor.
Okay.
And then we can adopt it and we'll be done with it.
Wow, that's awesome. It's been hanging out there a long time. 4 years. Well, you know. 4 years. We're getting it done. Okay, so being as we have no public comments, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So the next item on our agenda is the 2016 capital projects. And we have Walt here tonight to kind of just talk about the 284 agreement and the roads that he has identified that he would like to pave next year. Sorry, Walt, I should have had the table set up. My apologies.
That's all right. The roads I picked for this year is Christie Lane. We did Cary Boulevard this year, and that'll finish that subdivision. And then Rogers Road, Covey, and Quail Ridge, and that'll take care of that development.
Are that's all in the same development, Quail Ridge and?
Yep.
Covey?
Right off of
Okay, all
Rogers.
right,
There's the two dead ends off of Rogers.
okay. Okay, does anyone have any comments on the roads that they would, in their particular
Yeah,
area?
I first would like to at least, thank Walt for his consideration on these roads. Rogers Road is really a main road, especially when Crum Elbow floods out, or if there's an accident. It's really the only way to get around that area. So I know when Dutchess County plans on doing all that construction, that will be a detour.
Oh.
And Rogers Road has been patched, and then more patches on top of that patch. So Rogers Road is really in rough shape, and it's really heavily used, especially during, emergencies. So I'm happy to see that, and, Covey and Quail are both in disrepair as well.
Yeah, it looks like Ward 4 is the area to focus on the last couple of years.
Well, I mean, it really is. If there was more money, that Beck Road is like really bad. Kim and Kelly is bad. I mean, that whole area out there, but,
Well, the worst part of Beck you repaired after Irene, so that part is helped.
oh, I don't think so. The
No?
worst part of Beck?
Yeah, where the culvert was.
Nah, that road's terrible. There's no drainage, there's not a catch basin on the road. I mean, it's hard to sit in your seat. You come down off the county road and drive the whole length of Beck Road?
Yeah, I lived there.
No, I know you live there, but that road is bad. I mean, I wouldn't say we repaired the worst part because it washed out during
Right.
Irene, but that road's bad. I mean, as much as it pains me to say that, but it's bad.
Do you have any sort of a list that, of the upcoming plans, beyond the year ahead?
I really don't, because it's hard to count on the money, the CHIPS money. So it's kind of what we can do, within that budget.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain roads, like I'm constantly getting complaints about,
Falco?
no, Golden Meadows.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody has certain areas that they're constantly getting complaints about. And it'd be kind of nice if we could tell people that they're on a 5-year plan or a something. I know it's it's hard without knowing.
Well, I mean, basically, the issue is for those roads that are so long we can't cover them with our budget unless there's a bond,
Yeah, yeah,
it won't be done,
yeah.
you know, and I mean, again, like Beck Road is with the drainage, a lot, you know, Falk Hill, South Cross Road, you know, I mean, there's a ton of roads that, I mean, a couple years ago, I sent over a list of the worst roads, and it was over $1 million just in resurfacing,
Right, right.
not alone, you know, drainage, hadn't even been considered, so.
Well, I'm glad to see this year, you kept it under the 150, is that, are you,
Well, actually, it's 191,
for 2016?
but that's our CHIPS money, yeah. Well, we won't know definitely until the budget's passed next April, the governor's budget.
Right, but if I'm looking at the agreement that you sent over, the total projected was 146?
Well, it is, and then what I put on there was for the remainder of the money to go towards Cardinal Road, to shim up Cardinal Road, but this year, we were over budget.
Right.
We were over budget,
So
yeah.
I'm trying to avoid that.
That's good,
That's why I left that money
good.
there.
Thank you.
Yeah, because this year I think we went over 46,000, is that right?
35,
35,
Yep.
okay, for the Cary Boulevard.
but I didn't want to leave that road half done.
No, well, that wouldn't make sense.
No.
But, yeah, it's good if we can project carefully what the cost will be.
Now, whether we get more money from Albany or not, who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah, well, it's a kind of a lose-lose situation, because if we get it, it means it was a terrible winter, right? That's the only reason we got it the last two.
Yep.
So I'd be okay if we don't get it and we have an easy winter. If I'm negotiating
But
now.
that means no drainage, though.
Oh, yeah, so,
That's what that
it's all a
winter recovery goes for.
Is
yeah.
there a timeline on next year's projects? Like, I know this year it got sort of pushed back because of things that had to be done before the paving.
Well, I mean, we had our roads ready pretty early, but, you know, it depends on the contractor
Contract.
schedule, and, you know, honestly, we don't do that much anymore, like a mile and a half, so, you know, it's only 2 days' work, basically, for the contractor, so whenever
So
they
does that
can
mean
get
we
there.
kind of get put on the bottom of a list?
Oh, I don't know, it depends who gets the bid and how busy they are. I mean, the company we had this year was really busy.
I know our parking lot out here is really looking pretty rough, too, but it's got to be added to the list, you know?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
the only thing we have to be cautious of is, you know, when the county does start working on Crum Elbow, when we do Rogers, having both ends there would be a little bit difficult.
Oh, right.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, what Balkine said was they weren't going to use the detour. When he was here for that public meeting, he said they were going to keep one
One
lane
lane
open
open.
on Crum Elbow and keep everybody going on Crum Elbow.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said when he was here, but last year or whenever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should, I mean, it would be good to at least find out the schedule, because, I mean,
Right.
if some people might take a detour on their own, you know, I don't know. I'm just,
I know the
you know,
wi-
to not,
I know it's been awarded, but it hasn't,
okay.
they
The
don't have a
construction?
date yet.
The construction's been awarded?
Yeah,
Or-
from what I was told.
Oh, is
Oh,
that right?
that's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, maybe we could reach out to Bob Balkine and just get an update,
Get
because
an
I know
update.
people are very interested in,
Maybe even get them in here again and.
yeah, I'm
Update.
sure he would be happy to come. Okay, does anybody have any other questions on the 284?
What?
Excuse me? What'd you say, Herb?
Whatever.
Figure it out.
I think we're all good.
No, I don't need no help on Rogers Road.
Yeah,
I can.
Yeah, Herb's going to be out there to help you.
Be with you.
Thanks, Walt.
Thanks for coming in, Walt.
thank you, Walt.
Well,
Okay.
road probably.
So the second item on our workshop, I just want to bring the board up to speed on something that I've been working on and off with Kristen Simmons, our assessor, actually Cables. So I would say 3 years ago, the school district contacted us and asked for a meeting, and the intent of the meeting was to discuss our assessments, and that we are only at a 62% equalization rate. So, you know, that impacts the school in many ways, so they wanted to get that discussion started. And, you know, so we kind of talk about it, and then we circle back, and then we kind of leave it behind and move on to something else. But essentially, we have a number of tax certs on the agenda tonight, which if people realize what's going on with those, it's basically a lawsuit that requires or asks that the town lower the evaluation, and it goes through litigation if we can't come to an agreement. So there's been this pressure on our tax base through these tax certs that is actually diminishing it. So basically, towns are suggested to do revals about every 7 years, and the last reval we had was in 1994. So we're talking 20 years. And so, it's just it's a good government practice to do a reval. And one of the things that they look at is the value as compared to I'm not exactly sure how to describe the 100% factor, but essentially when you're not at 100% because your values are so dated, it inhibits you from actually assessing properties when they are sold at a higher rate. So there's a lot of reasons that the New York State suggests that we take a look at our values and begin exploring the cost of a reval. So essentially, we have been talking about this on and off for probably the entire time that we've been here, and I know the discussions took place before as well. And part of the equation is we don't know how much it costs. Essentially, we talk about, well, it's a very expensive proposition, and so we really are not in a position to do that. But, it's a bit of a unknown as to what the cost is. So what we've discussed with Kristen is putting together, and Hannah worked on it as well, a request for proposals. And so that way we would kind of put this out to the vendors who do that, and actually get a cost on what it would cost for this process, because it is a rather involved process to do a complete reval. So I just wanted to bring everyone up to speed on that, because I know that I've talked with Warren and I've talked with Emily and Hannah, but I don't know that Dave and Ken have ever been included. And so that is just, I wanted to bring that up.
Is this something that could possibly be a shared cost between the town, the school, fire, and library, since wouldn't they all be impacted by this?
I talked to Owen Rafter at the county, and I've also talked to the school district, because as I said, originally the pressure came from the school district, and apparently they had investigated would they be able to contribute to the cost, and they were told that they would be prohibited from it. And then, as I said, I talked to Owen Rafter at Dutchess County Planning to see if there was a way for us to put together a shared service application, because of all the towns in Dutchess, there's only 3 that are not at a full valuation, and that's Hyde Park, Dover, and Pauling. Okay. And everyone else is at 100%. That's because they've done a reval in the last number of years, and we haven't done it in 20. So
how often does a reval have to take place to be at 100%? Do we know that?
That's a good question. I mean, Warren, how would you answer that? How often does a reval have to take place to be at 100%?
It doesn't have to take place. I mean, if you're at 100%, you don't have to do the reval, but usually once you do a reval, there's if we abide by the state guidelines and opt into their program, we will do a review of the sales of properties for a period of 6 years, and then keep our assessment roll updated for that period of time. And then sometimes at the end of that period, if the town equalization rate drops below 100%, you might consider another reval down the road. But
so I guess my question would be, this is just education for me. If we had it done back in 1994, and I'm assuming that's when that's the last time we were at 100%, correct?
Right.
Assume so.
Assume that we were at 100%. So what were we lacking as a town to not be at 100% today? Is it the assessor's office that?
It's the values
what keeps us at 100%? I mean, that's,
It's not the assessor's office's
What-
fault.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I mean, what 100% just means is that the values that our homes and businesses are assessed at is roughly equal to the actual market value. And because we haven't done it in so long, the values that are assigned to our properties are not, they don't match the actual today's market value.
correct. So if a house
So-
sells for 240, but it's assessed at 160.
Right.
Right.
That's
Right.
right.
So the fear that people have at being 100% is that they feel that they'll be paying more in taxes and some will be paying, and some could pay less, right? But most people's fear of saying, when you talk about a reval is, oh my God, they're gonna come look at my house and I gotta pay more in taxes. Is that the fear
Well-
that's out there?
That probably is the fear, but basically, what the reval does is it looks at the actual values, and so you don't have that equalization rate any longer. So it's distributing, I think the pie remains the same, and it gets, the pieces become a little bit different. But as per the advice of our assessor, when we've discussed it, it's, a lot of the commercial properties are outdated in terms of their values. And that's why we keep getting these tax certs, which that's kind of like, it's chipping away at the values, because
Yes.
then they can use the tax cert
Yeah.
to use as a comparable. Is that right? Would you say it that way, Warren, or?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, basically, the 62% is the town's equalization rate. And what the state does, state ORPS, they come in and they examine your sales, sampling over, I think, a 3-year period. And then they compare those sales to what you have the properties assessed at. And they come up with a equalization rate based upon their comparison of the actual sales compared to what we have on the assessment roll. So in the case of Hyde Park, that means that the sales they're looking at are actually represent 62% of fair market. Our assessments represent 62% of fair market value based upon sales. And the problem for an assessor is that because of the welcome stranger line of cases in New York State and the Court of Appeals decision, they are not permitted to do piecemeal reassessment. So that means when properties are sold, if it's assessed at $100,000 and it sells for $3 million, you actually cannot increase that assessment because of the welcome stranger concept of assessment. So the only way you can recapture those values based upon trends and changes in the market over the years is to periodically do a revaluation now. And that's what would happen in this case. So the town would be able to bring up to date properties that are undervalued because, they have been recently sold or clearly have appreciated in market value, where we can't do that on a piecemeal basis.
Okay.
And the results usually are that some properties, the assessments go up, usually an equal number, the assessments go down, and then there's a number that remain the same. So the fact that you change the assessments of property doesn't mean that your taxes will go up necessarily. So it's usually something across the board. That's been the experience of.
And is it a New York State law that we should be at 100%, or
No.
we should be evaluated?
No,
at
you
a-
don't have to be at 100%. You have to be at, properties have to be assessed at an equal percentage of fair market value.
Okay.
So if we're at 62%, that means we should be assessing properties at 62% of their fair market value. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen
Right,
because
right.
you can't.
Yeah, I'm sorry to delay.
Some are higher,
Trying to-
some of them are lower. And as the supervisor mentioned, that's what has inspired some tax certiorari proceedings where people look at the equalization rate and then they look at what they're assessed at and come in and challenge their assessments based upon the equalization rate. And in our case, it's 62%. So some of those cases are hard to defend.
Sure.
So it's a benefit to the town, really, unfortunately, to go through a revaluation periodically.
It could also be a benefit to the homeowner, so he'd actually have the value of his home if he's refinancing or whatever else he's doing.
It helps. It helps. It helps to have an up-to-date assessment roll and 100% for a variety of reasons.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
at
And it
this point,
clean-
we're just
yeah.
exploring
Right.
what the
It cleans
costs
up
may
it
be.
cleans up the records
Gotcha.
and makes them very consistent, which is part of my understanding. Values are kind of predicated on. It's really, you should have a clear record. It should be, your comparables should be in line with each other. You know, a similar property should be paying very
Right.
similar taxes. And so, you know, being as our records are from 1994, it's really, you know, it's difficult to have that clarity that would be expected. So, you know, as Warren said, our intent is to really get a value on what this is going to cost. And
Was the county receptive to a shared?
well, you know, Owen and I talked about it a little bit, and I think it's kind of complicated because you would have, in order to comply with the shared service program, you would have to establish that there's some benefit to having it done. You'd have to establish that there's a benefit derived from the three towns joining together. And because there is such a, you know, we're not close in proximity.
Right.
And I don't know, you know, if there really could be, it might be difficult to establish that.
Yeah,
You know, but I think part of what we're trying to do is establish the cost, and maybe if we did establish what it would cost for Hyde Park, and
Yeah.
Pauling did their own, and Dover did their own, and then we were able to get a better price from
The
the
three.
same,
That's right.
then perhaps it could work. They didn't shut the door on it.
Okay.
Will that be made more difficult if the level of records that we need done versus the level of record keeping that?
Well, that's
Dover
it,
needs
you know,
done?
that's the thing, is there's a lot of variety, there's a lot of choices to make, and, you know, and that is when you were working on the RFP, that, you know, there's all these decisions as to the level that you would need to go, and, you know, and as you say, the quality of your records, and, but I think that the only way it would really work for shared services, you know, if we could establish that it would cost us X amount of dollars, but if we do it with if they get a commitment from the three towns, it'll be X minus 10%, which is kind of what we did with Municity, and that was based on what it would have cost for each municipality if they were going to do it on their own versus if we did it collectively. But I'm not so sure if it would actually, I don't know that a vendor would necessarily think it would be advantageous to do three towns at the same time, because but, you know, that's something that we'll begin the exploration process.
Well, thank you. Look forward to seeing it.
Did I understand you to say that the school district is prohibited from helping us? with the cost?
Financially, that's what I was told by Doug Heater.
Because they deal with like 5 different towns, maybe?
Well, just because, you know, there's pots of monies are very distinct, you know. That's it's the town's responsibility, as Emily said, and, you know, we're very distinct entities, and we really don't engage at that level.
I don't suggest mixing funds, I just,
No, but even still, you know, they're the ones who suggested it at first.
I know. They get
And-
heat from Clinton.
Yeah, and then they, when I followed up with them, I was like, well, hey, you guys want to pay for a reval? They were like, no, we can't.
Okay,
So,
no help.
Well, I think, you know, it's one step at a time, and the first step is just to find out what the price is,
Yeah.
and then, you know, then we can plan for it, whether it's soon or later, or getting outside funds, or, you know, however it works. There's really no way to plan unless you know what it costs,
Okay.
so.
yeah, so I just really wanted to introduce it before we finalize that RFP, and I think that we may have that on for our next meeting.
Great.
Okay.
What is the next?
So, would anyone like to provide some public comment on either the resolutions or on any, no, it's not, yes, or any matter of town business? Okay. Moving on then, shall we go right to the resolutions?
Resolution 1271 of 2015, resolution authorizing return of the balance of escrows for zoning board of appeals projects.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye. Resolution 127-2 of 2015, Resolution authorizing the return of the balance of escrows for erosion sediment control, SWPPP, and stormwater projects.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 127-3 of 2015, resolution awarding bids for 2016 highway materials and services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 127-4 of 2015, resolution appointing Michael Conforti to the Town of Hyde Park Board of Assessment Review.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Michael wanted me to thank the board for allowing him to serve 5 more years, the honor of doing it. He was sorry he couldn't be here tonight. He had to go to a wake.
Oh,
Thanks, the board.
I would like to thank Michael for his time and investment and service.
Thanks.
Resolution 1275 of 2015, 2015 budget revisions, number 2015-11.
And do I have a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 6. Resolution 127-6 of 2015, resolution authorizing interfund advance.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
So this is basically, the highway fund is receiving $100,000 from the general fund because they ran short this year.
It's temporary, or?
Yes,
Yeah,
yep. It's a cash flow.
Yeah, we'll be
issue.
getting the CHIPS money
Yep.
back, right? That'll help.
That's right, the
Total
232,000.
balance this year, yeah.
Yeah.
Resolution 127-7 of 2015, resolution scheduling a public hearing on a proposed amendment to the cable franchise renewal agreement between the Town of Hyde Park and Cablevision of Wappingers Falls, Inc.
Want me to explain?
Sure.
So basically, it came to our attention, the town's attention, that the Cablevision contract that was renewed in December of 2010 had some provisions in there that may not have been totally advantageous to the town in terms of the definition of gross receipts for determining franchise fees and with regard to limitations placed on the town in examining records of Cablevision, so we could do an internal audit to make sure we're getting paid the fees that we're supposed to. And there were also pretty severe restrictions on the statute of limitations, which normally would be 6 years for the town to sue for a violation of the franchise fee agreement. So we negotiated with Cablevision, and they have agreed to provide enter into an agreement amending the franchise agreement of 2010, which is in place for 10 years. That's the way these agreements run, to expand the definition of gross receipts, which is comparable to other communities similar to ours, which Cablevision provides service for, and to also allow us to examine the records for a period of 3 years and extends the statute of limitations for 6 years. So before we do that, we have to have a public hearing, and that's why we're scheduling a public hearing, and if the town board decides to go ahead with it, it would then have to be approved by the Public Service Commission.
Thank you for that synopsis. Again, this is one of those things that we keep circling around to, and we've been working on it for a couple of years, and finally got it to this point where we can go forward. Thank you for all your hard work on this, Warren. It's been a while, so,
I'll second that.
okay, good. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 127-8 of 2015, resolution authorizing the attorney to the town to execute order and judgment on consent and settlement of the Hyde Park Mobile Manor Incorporated Tax Cert proceeding.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1279 of 2015, resolution authorizing the attorney to the town to execute the order and judgment on consent in settlement of the tax certiorari proceeding filed by Woodstock Chicken, Inc. against the town of Hyde Park.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye. Resolution 127-10 of 2015, resolution authorizing the attorney to the town to execute the order and judgment on consent in settlement of the tax certs proceedings filed by Sarukas and Van Keokus Real Estate against the Town of Hyde Park.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 127-11 of 2015, resolution authorizing the receiver of taxes to collect the water warrants for the Violet Avenue Water District, Greenfields Water District, Greenfield Sewer District, and Greenbush Water District.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
We need to add this at the dais, correct?
Yep.
Yes. So may I have a motion to add resolution number 12, approving change order for contract between Town of Hyde Park and Hudson Hills Contracting?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
And so basically, this is just to clarify, the contractor who did the really nice work at the Farm Lane sidewalk. And we had some money left over in the grant, and at one point, we decided that it would be helpful to add 2 additional bollard lights at the entrance, and it was covered under the grant, so that's basically what this change order is for.
Perfect.
So,
Yeah, it really does look nice there.
doesn't it look nice? Yeah, so good.
Looks
So I
great.
think I'm not sure who's reading this
That would be
one?
myself.
Okay.
So this is Resolution 12-7-12 of 2015, which was just added at the dais. Resolution approving change order for a contract between the Town of Hyde Park and Hudson Hills Contracting LLC.
And do we have a second?
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye. Great. They look good.
Is that it?
Then, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk just about last night.
Yeah, that would be lovely, yeah.
Yesterday, we had our tree lighting ceremony here at the town hall, which in the past 4 years, I would say, was the best attended. We probably had close to 200 people, I would say, here. And it was really just a wonderful evening. And there's a lot of hands that make this work. And I really like to thank the Lions, the Rotary, the Recreation Department did another great job. Don Veith for always willing to volunteer his time or his men's time to put lights up. The PBA did a fantastic job. You know, Santa Claus got a free ride in our police car yesterday, which is always a lot of fun. I'd also like to thank the Hyde Park Methodist Church for allowing us to use their property. And of course, you know, another great partnership with the FDR High School with the choral and the musicians that were here. And it was just it was a wonderful night. It felt, you know, the holiday spirit. It had a nice chill in the air, but yet a lot of warmth and love going throughout the town. So I know, you know, the people that attended were very excited, and it's just a nice community event, and I'm glad that we're able to do that.
And our thanks to Diane Cullen for.
Diane Cullen, yeah, she
Yeah.
just did a great
Yeah.
job, and
Yeah.
it's always fun seeing the kid's face when Santa Claus comes marching in, you know?
It was nice, very nice.
I still get excited.
And then, just to mention a couple other items that tomorrow, we have a menorah lighting at 3:45, and everyone is invited. It was, we had it last year, it was really fun. We had latkes and all kinds of.
Jelly donut,
Jelly donut.
music, and dreidels.
And delicious chocolate dreidels, so if that doesn't get people out, I don't know what will, but it was very nice. And then we do have one other holiday festivity, which is a lunch and listen program. The FDR Band will be here on December 22nd from 12:45 to 1:45, and just performing music, and people are welcome to come to Town Hall and bring their lunches and just listen to some really fine quality music.
Oh, that's nice. So they bring their lunch and.
Yeah, well, they will, the public is invited to bring their lunch, and the
Right.
FDR Music Department will provide the entertainment.
Oh, that's
So,
fantastic.
yeah, that'll be nice. Okay, so with that, may I have a motion to go ahead and close the meeting?
I make a motion?
Second?
And a second? And all in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Herb, I'm so sorry.
There's one thing Barbara sent me upstairs to
Oh, okay.
remind the public that tomorrow is Coffee with a Cop
Oh, thank
at
you.
McDonald's at 8
Yes.
o'clock,
Yeah.
8 to 10, right?
8 to 10, yeah.
At the,
McDonald's,
McDonald's.
right.
thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Barbara. I meant to mention that. Glad you're on top of it.
And apologize for the exuberance downstairs when Walt announced that my road was the one that was going to be paved.
Okay.
Is that what that was?
that
That
But
was- You
ever
can
watch-
believe it, actually, right?
well, do you ever watch those game shows on television when the announcer comes out and says, now, one of you lucky people is going to get a big prize. They call somebody's name, and the woman comes up, and she runs all over the place. It was like that.
All right,
Well, we're
Good.
glad we made your night.
great.
Thanks, Herb. Okay, did we
Right,
close the
thank you.
meeting? Yeah, we did, right, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
He was out of order.